Welcome back to Invasive Brews, everybody. It's that time of year again, and people are going stir crazy in the house. And the weather is finally starting to turn nice, and people are going to want to start getting out in their garden and planning for the summer and seeing what they want to do. I know I was anyway. And I want to take this opportunity to talk to you about something that I've kind of been working on. And it all has to do with planting for wildlife. Now, I have a whole video on why planting native plants is the way to go. So after this one, I would probably go check that video out if you haven't already. But I'll give you the cliff notes here. Basically, when you plant something in your garden, you're introducing an organism into the ecosystem. And that organism is then part of that ecosystem. It's then eaten by, insects or birds or anything like that. And when we introduce a non-native species, our animals that have co-evolved here for millennia with the plants around here just don't seem to utilize non-native plants more than the ones that they know. And when we introduce some like very non-native invasive species, those can take up the ecosystem and create a monoculture, which then nothing can really utilize, and there's very little biodiversity. Yes, a lot of non-native plants that we plant in our gardens do flower, and the pollinators seem to love them. But they do come with issues. Some don't produce seeds that will feed the birds throughout the winter. Some don't produce as much pollen as our native plants for the pollinators. Some can even be toxic to our local wildlife. So, but the biggest issue is that a lot of non-native plants and invasive plants, they don't serve as host plants. A plant where a species like butterflies or moths will come and lay their egg, and then they'll hatch, and then the caterpillar or the larva then grow up and eat on that plant. Monarch butterfly is the core example of this, the milkweed species. That's the only species that they will lay their eggs on and the caterpillars can utilize. So without those native plants, we don't have those pollinators. Then when these caterpillars eat and grow, they serve as a food source themselves. They're especially for the rearing chicks of the new generation of countless bird species, especially songbirds. Again, cliff notes. But to the point of this video, anywhere you go with gardening supplies, you can buy, seed packets. You can buy seed packets ranging from 50 cents to, I don't know, $20 for 1,000 square feet. Or that seems a little steep. But yeah, you could just buy these little seed packets. And I really wanted to dig in and find out just how beneficial and native these species are. So I did a little research. Everywhere I was looking, you could see the articles saying like be careful of what to buy because some of them might have non-native or invasive plants, but it didn't really get into the meat of the core subject. And a lot of articles just say watch out. Non-native plants are in seed packets, or mysterious seeds in seed packets, stuff like that. So what I had to do was then go really dig deep into the research myself. So I went around town. I went around town in my hometown here in Garden City, Kansas. I went to Walmart, Home Depot, Menards, and I analyzed, or I looked at 25 different seed packets. I even went on Amazon and looked at the seed packets that were selling 900 plus, 1,000 plus in the last month. So the most popular seed packets. And then I started analyzing what was in them. I then made a spreadsheet and I analyzed every species that was in all of the seed packets. I organized them from native to non-native to invasive. I put the percent compositions that was given to me on the seed packets. If they were non-native or invasive, I did put them in a column of where they were from. Some didn't give me the percentage of seeds that were in the packets. They just said if the seed was present or not. So then I had to make a certain column for them. In the end, I analyzed 27 seed packets from Walmart, Menards, Amazon, Home Depot, from companies like Burpee, Ferry Morse, and Seed Needs, and a couple others on Amazon that you could order. In these 25 seed packets, I counted a total of 90 different species of annual and perennial plants that people were putting out in their gardens. Of these 90 species, 44 were native to North America. 46 were non-native, and of those 46, 19 were invasive or showed invasive traits. So less than 50% were native, 51% were non-native, and of those non-native, 41% showed to be invasive species. These aren't good numbers. So you see where I'm getting at here. The most common invasive species were cornflower in 15 of the packets, larkspur, which was in 13, sweet alyssum in 11, sweet williams in 10, and common poppy in 10 seed packets. The most common non-native plants were baby's breath in 17 packets, Siberian wallflower in 16, Chinese forget-me-nots in 11, Shasta daisy in 10, and perennial flax in 8. Company wise, I created a few graphs to kind of organize my data, and I'll show them here. This graph is showing the seed packets that showed seed percentages within the packets. Green indicates native, blue non-native, and red represents invasive species. This graph shows the packets that just showed which seeds were present and that not the percentage compositions. So the colors represent the same, the number of species. And this final graph shows total number of species by company. I'll compress all of my data into a document, and I'll leave it in the description below so you can kind of go through it and look at the different species and the seed packets. I'll include some of the pictures I took of the seed packets. Some of these seed packets, they only gave me like less than 5% of the seed packet was this seed. So it didn't give me a real number of percent composition. So these are kind of rough numbers. I kind of just estimated. If it said less than 2%, some of them added up to 100%, some of them a little less, like 97, 98%. So some of those less than 5% seeds were probably a little bit more, but a little bit less. So again, these are rough numbers. They're not exact. If I really wanted to get into it, I would have taken them all apart and analyzed the seeds, identified the seeds, counted the seeds myself. I don't have that much time. I teach, I coach, and I own a brewery at the same time. So I don't have enough time to just count seeds. So if you want to do that, perfect. Leave a comment in below and get a hold of me. I would love to see your data. So if you want to do that, go right ahead. But if you really want to start putting native flowers and native plants in your yard to really start helping wildlife, there are resources that you can go to get region-specific native plants. Like my local extension office gives out these for the chickadee checkoff here in Kansas, and they are all Kansas native wildflowers. You could check your local extension office, get a hold of maybe Parks and Wildlife Service. Our Kansas Wildlife and Parks office has them. So there are region-specific native plant companies and opportunities out there. You just got to look for them. And that video that I mentioned earlier, it does go through how to research your area and with some certain websites. So please be sure to check out that video, and it will kind of guide you to what's native to your area, what animals they attract, what uses them as host plants. So kind of go back to that video after this one if you have time. I really wanted to bring this situation to everyone's attention because a lot of people are buying these seed packets, and a lot of people are kind of spreading these non-native invasive plants without even knowing it. And I think that's on the company. These companies really need to pay more attention to what they are selling. And some of these seed packets were using like the common name, which most people know, but some of them were using the Latin names. And those packets were the ones that were kind of using more non-native and invasive plants. So it might have been just how they do all their seed packets by native name or Latin names, or it can be a little bit more so that it's cheaper to put these in there and then use the Latin name so people don't know what they're putting in. They're just trusting the company. And if that's the case, that's really not good on their part. So we really need to, and again, all that's going to be in the data. I have the common name and the Latin name, where the plant is from, all in my data. So if you want to take a look at the PDF or the file that I haven't made it yet, so it'll be in the description when I get this video up. So I want to iterate that everyone needs to pay attention to what they are putting into their yards, and it starts at the company. I like to tell my students all the time that nobody can do everything, but everyone can do something. And what I mean by this is we all have a responsibility to our planet in any way we can. Even if you have just a little patio on the a studio apartment or something, you could put in a pot of a native plant, and that's better than nothing. Even if it doesn't attract any pollinators or birds, it's going to, sequester carbon dioxide. We all have a responsibility to this earth to do something. In fact, over 40 million acres of lawn or turf grass is in the United States, and it's one of the most irrigated crops that in the United States that we get nothing out of except aesthetics. But that's 40 million acres. That's 40 million opportunities that we can put in a few native plants, a few native shrubs or trees. And that's a lot. If everybody did something with those 40 million acres, if just a little bit of it, a corner of it, right in front of your door, your back patio, that's everything counts. Every little bit counts. And it starts with native seeds. It starts with the native. I really put some time into going around and analyzing these seed packets, and I want to make it clear that I'm not bashing these companies at all. I mean, they have a lot. I buy from them all the time with my garden plants if I don't buy from our local FFA, um, or I start my seeds myself. But I'm not bashing these companies. I'm just trying to make them like accountable for spreading invasive species. And who knows? Maybe they don't even know. They probably do, but they need to be more responsible. And if more of us kind of voice our opinions and kind of write into them, maybe they'll start changing. Maybe they'll start more advertising and selling more native plants, because the demand is higher. So that's what my hope is with this project, is to educate people on why native is the way to go, why we are doing this, why I do this, why I kind of am passionate about this. So if you decide to start being a warrior for wildlife and start planting native plants in your yard, be sure to pollinate that subscribe button for more videos like this and how you can help your local wildlife, especially that why you should plant native video that you should check out. But other videos about invasive species and craft breweries around your area. So please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, plant native and drink local. And that video that I talked about earlier, it does go through how to